This is not in any way intended to make any sort of parable about Russia, but it concerns a Russian customer at a place called Pulas, where I was a dishwasher. I believe it is criminally insane to try to I believe it is useless, a waste of time to try to reason with the criminally insane. You risk being sucked into the idea of normalizing absolute stupidities and becoming to look like you're criminally insane yourself because you're validating something that's absurd. I was a dishwasher. The Russian customer commanded me to clear the table. I said, I can't. I have been told not to clear the table, that that's the waitress's job. And he shouted at me, "Oh, reluctant are you?" and began to clear the table himself. So I decided to help him clear the table. The waitress came lunging at me and saying, "I told you never to clear the table." So I quit the job, and Paula laughed and said, "Good luck." Now, a dishwasher has prescribed duties. A library clerk has prescribed duties. One of the things that's allowed in our society is to editorialize in the hopes of influencing what you consider to be better judgment on high. It doesn't mean you wire into somebody's editorializing and say they think they can do better, so let's make a mockery of them by acting out some of their ideas and showing and illustrating our contempt for them by bad results, by manufacturing bad results, which is the billionaire method of the Zodiac oligarch, Trumpington. Instead, what you have are prescribed vocational mandates and requirements. For example, I bore witness to something. This doesn't mean that I'm not sympathetic to the climate change movement. This doesn't mean that I'm not willing to man up to some responsibilities to address Western attitudes about Africa, about Russia, about any of the places where I feel we have gone wrong. It means it's not my responsibility to be held answerable for the problems that I did not create. Now, a professor at CCAC, where I used to work and went to school, said that white people won't appreciate what black people are going through until they are suffering the same consequences that black people are. Well, if you follow that line of reasoning, what's to stop um, Japan from pouring acid on the face of a child of a naval veteran to commemorate the Hiroshima Maiden? What's to stop anybody from taking the law into their hands to cause suffering that they feel a symbol deserves? Nothing. Once something like that starts, bye on rational processes. Presumptions of innocence, bye. Now, this same man had a colleague who told me he was also black. They were both black men. Who told me that he knew Bush was behind AIDS and supported it. Now, this was not to say that I knew that Bush was behind AIDS, but I certainly didn't support it. That was the more important point. Nor do I think that China is evil. This other black man may have had a talk with the first black warrior, who showed me a stack. I mean, it was like a mountain of Khmer Rouge skulls, of horrifying swastikas. He told me they were sacred, the honorary, the African symbols. So, given the fact that the UN and the elders and Nelson Mandela and the whole shebang with Pino and Gabriel went along with the Green Party's maneuvers, the Two Virgins pussy ball, the Obama um, brouhaha, mongered by Tony Levin, that progressively became more ferocious the more desperate they became to pin the tail on the donkey and say somebody who had never done anything to Lenin was responsible for his death. And this allowed people who were ripping off the museums to get away with it, who supported the AIDS attack by their own admission, to say that somebody who everybody knew was trying to warn people that there was evidence it was an attack so that they would intervene and put a stop to it, was somehow responsible for it. And the people who supported it were not responsible for it. Wow. That's Presto. That's Yoko Ono. That's a favorite practitioner of this infra lobby. How can you reason with something that horrifying and stupid? And they poison me in the mouth and release COVID. So we get the idea. I get the idea. They're just going to do this shit and pin the tail on innocent people. Well, you know, it's a similar situation where they come and say, oh, we're going to go rob a bank. We're going to go pick a pocket. We're going to go repossess from the museum for the real victims. It doesn't pan out that way. I know that there are resentment formulas that allow you to think that tinkering with ordinary processes of civil um, uh, decencies, somehow rectifying wrongs. That's not how it operates. I'm not a legal expert, but I do not think that using entrapment and attack prostitution to justify and create a genocide warrant is holy war. I think it's criminally insane. And then they want to make the victim pay for it. The way that, and this is a practice of Trumpington. Alec Baldwin killed somebody and then he wants the victims to pay for it. He's going to sue them. It's really really weird, Donald. You're really weird, dude.